Hi, I'm Nikki. Many of you already know me, but for those of you who don't, I am a Enneagram practitioner and lover of all things personality, psychology, neurology, etc. And I wanted to share something that I've been kind of thinking about as of late. Um, Obviously, our world is in mm, disarray, probably is the best way to say it. But I wanted to share something with all of you around the psychology of what is happening, the psychology and the neurology of what's happening in the United States right now. So I'm going to kind of start with this feeling that many of us have been having. We look around and we think, how the hell are we still here? What is going on in our country? How are we still supporting leaders who lie, harm, get convicted of crimes, and still millions of people, some people in my own family, still see them as heroes? It's really easy to roll our eyes and call it ignorance or blind loyalty. But what's actually happening is much more complicated and very deeply human. It's not just political, it's moral, it's neurological, and it's psychological. So we're going to start with something called, or the difference rather, between vertical versus horizontal morality. Vertical morality says that said morality comes from above, whether you believe in God, some kind of authority, tradition, the right order of things. Vertical morality is about obedience, loyalty, and purity. Horizontal morality is about how we treat each other. That's things like fairness, compassion, reciprocity. It's a shared humanity. Neither is bad. We need both for structure and empathy. But when vertical morality starts to dominate, people start thinking, if I follow the authority who keeps me safe, even if they're deeply flawed, because loyalty and order matter more than fairness or compassion. From that perspective, defending a corrupt leader isn't hypocrisy, it's moral consistency within that worldview. It's about protecting order and identity from chaos. And that brings us to the brain. Now, of course, I could talk about this very easily for 5 to 7 hours, but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. But we have a couple of parts of our brain that are really important when it comes to the way in which we think. One of them is the amygdala. So if you imagine my thumb right here, turning it in, putting my hand over, we have representation of a brain. And our amygdala is this part right here. It's an almond-shaped, almond-sized alarm center of our brain. This part of our brain is built to keep us alive. This part of our brain does not think, it just reacts, and it is constantly scanning for danger and triggers. And it actually triggers fear or anger when it senses threat. It is our watchtower, our fight or flight, well, fight, flight, fear, fall, freeze mechanism of our brain. Now, I am being very bipartisan when I say this, okay? Research shows that people who identify as more politically conservative tend to have larger or more reactive amygdalas. This doesn't mean that conservatives are, quote, more scared. What it does mean is that their brains are more sensitive to perceived threats. These folks tend to prioritize safety, predictability, and stability. Evolutionarily, this is an adaptive function of our brain. We need protectors in our tribe that is humanity. But fear is a very powerful tool. When we are afraid, the prefrontal cortex, our neocortex, this is the part of our brain that handles logic, rationale, uh, long-term consequence. This is also the part of our brain that handles empathy, okay, long-term thinking. This is where our IQ is housed. When we're afraid, this part of our brain shuts down, and this part of our brain is in the driver's seat. Our amygdala runs the show. Now, let's talk a little bit about how leaders hijack fear. Authoritarian leaders across the world, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Putin, whether it's Kim Jong-un, any of these folks, authoritarian leaders across the world have learned how to weaponize the amygdala. They use short, emotional, repetitive language that keeps people on high alert, saying things like, they are coming for your jobs. They are invading your schools. I am the only one who can save you. Every time that alarm bell rings, the followers of these leaders, their fear system lights up and their reasoning centers dim down. Fear narrows the field of vision until it becomes us versus them. Our brains are smart. There's a term called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the pathway in which our brains operate. It's how habits are formed. It's how we do things over time. And the more reinforced that pathway becomes, the stronger the thought, the belief, the action, whatever it is that we're going through becomes stronger. So once the brain links a leader with safety, loyalty hardens into something that feels sacred. And this isn't stupidity. This is survival mode. I often share that when it comes to our amygdalas, it's the part of our brain that if a mountain lion is running at us, it's the part of our brain that says, get out, run away, right? It releases chemicals into our body, cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline. It's the part of our brain that says, get out, this is bad, or fights back. And that is what's kept us alive as human beings, for me, for 43 years, right? But our amygdalas also, because they don't process actual thought, can get us in a little bit of trouble in our social environments. And that is what we're seeing happening. So it's not stupidity, it's survival. Now, I do want to take a minute to shift gears a little bit and talk about the Enneagram and how we all react under fear. The Enneagram becomes a really powerful mirror for us to see how we show up. Fear doesn't just shape politics, it shapes how each of us contracts when we feel threatened. Every type has its own flavor of amygdala activation. When stress hits, we all regress to our primitive survival stories. So I'm going to quickly spin through the 9 different types and what this could look like. And for you, if you know your type, this might stick out to you. If you don't know your type, maybe hearing some of these might resonate with you. We have the type 1. Under fear, ones double down on rules and righteousness. These folks cling to what's right as a shield against chaos. In politics, this can look like moral absolutism, punishing others to preserve purity, even if compassion gets lost along the way. We have the type 2. When afraid, 2s try to secure love through service or alignment. They might follow authority figures who seem to need them, mistaking dependency for purpose. Then we have the type 3. Fear makes 3s chase winning and appearance. They'll side with power to stay on the, quote, winning team, even if integrity takes a back seat. Type 4. When 4s are scared, they can romanticize their pain or withdraw into identity. They might reject the world as corrupt, but do little to change it, believing no one can understand their depth. Type 5. Fear sends fives into mental fortresses. They pull back, gather data, and often detach so much sometimes that empathy feels optional. Safety becomes knowledge and distance. Type 6. This is the type most shaped by fear itself. Sixes look for trustworthy authority, someone to believe in when everything feels unsafe. In healthy form, they question power. In fear, they surrender to it. Then we have the type 7. When afraid, sevens run. Run toward distraction, run toward pleasure, or run toward optimism. These people, I happen to be a type 7, so this resonates with me, but we avoid heaviness, convincing ourselves that everything's fine while the entire house burns behind us. Then we have the type 8. Fear drives 8s to seize control. If these people sense weakness in leadership, they might idolize the strongman archetype, projecting their own inner protector onto an external figure. And then rounding it out with the type 9. Under fear, 9s numb out. They might tell themselves it's not worth the fight, maybe tuning out conflict to keep the illusion of peace, even when injustice festers under the surface. The point of all of this is that each type has its defense, and every defense is a strategy for safety. And that's the tie back to the amygdala. When the alarm sounds, we can't ask, is this moral? Instead, we ask, am I safe? And that's where vertical morality thrives, when fear eclipses awareness. And I want you all to consider these are, again, survival intelligences, survival strategies. They happen under the hood, so to speak. And we don't even know that they're occurring. We just react accordingly. But I want to talk about the cost of staying vertical. When vertical morality rules, morality becomes about belonging and not about behavior. As long as you're in the right camp, anything goes. But question the leader and you're suddenly the traitor. That's how a convicted abuser or a chronic liar can still be defended, because the greater fear isn't corruption. It's the other side winning. Fear collapses nuance into sides, and sides make it easy to stop thinking. So, what can we do? If fear can hijack us, it can also be healed. It can also be confronted. So, step 1, regulate before you reason. You can't think your way out of fear until your body feels safe. This might look like pausing, breathing, walking. It's a space for you to ground yourself. Step 2, ask yourself, who profits from your fear? Every outrage headline, every panic post, someone is making money or gaining power from it. Don't give them your nervous system. Step 3, choose horizontal morality on purpose. Ask yourself, what would compassion look like here? This isn't agreement. This isn't conceding. It's compassion. And compassion is the only antidote to dehumanization. Step 4, widen your circle. Talk to people who see the world differently. not to change them, but to keep your own empathy alive. Fear narrows, connection expands. Step 5, know your type's fear story. What is your default move? Do you moralize like a 1, distract like a 7, withdraw like a 5? That awareness is power, because once you name the pattern, you don't have to obey it. If you want to change the world, start by not letting your amygdala pick your leaders. Notice when fear is making your choices for you, and then do the radical thing. Breathe, think, bring that part of your brain back online, and choose love over panic. That's the real move from vertical to horizontal, from obedience to awareness, from fear to freedom, from ego to essence. Because real strength isn't about who you follow. It's about whether you are free enough to stay conscious when everybody else is terrified. That is where change begins. Not in Washington, in our own nervous systems, in our own hearts, in our own bodies.